Recently I played through a lot of Sonic games, and as I was doing so I began to think about the years that I normally refer to as the Dark Age of Sonic. More specifically about how Sonic Team tried a lot of different things. Racing games, RPGs, genocide, hell they even killed him at one point. But one detour that I found curious is the time Sonic decided to insert himself into fictional texts. The storybook games might just be the most out of left field idea in the Sonic series, with the exception of guns, blowing up the moon and murdering a small child. Okay, maybe it's not that ridiculous of an idea. Point being, Sonic just taking a break from his own canon and spending some time in other worlds is quite weird, and I want to talk about it. But first, some background on how these games started out. It's the early 2000s, and Sega is busy struggling in the console market. The writing was on the wall for the Dreamcast, and it became obvious that Sega needed to pursue a future where there'll be a third-party developer. This obviously meant a lot for Sonic, who needed to transition from games made for one console to games made for multiple. We first saw this in 2003 with Sonic Heroes, which released for the GameCube, the PS2 and the Xbox. And going forward, this was to be the norm for Sonic games, including 2006's Sonic the Hedgehog. Now I'm going to avoid talking about that game like the plague, but it was released for the Xbox 360 in November 2006, and the PS3 about a year later. Those weren't the only consoles that Sonic Team planned to release Sonic 06 on though. A port for the game was also planned for the Nintendo Wii, and can you imagine what that would look like? You're probably wondering what this has to do with anything. Well, the planned port was scrapped due to lengthy development times, and so Sonic Team decided to pivot and make a new game based around the Wiimote's motion controls instead. This game had a few names during development, including Sonic Wildfire and Hypersonic, but they eventually settled on Sonic and the Secret Rings, and there we go. We're onto our subject of this video. So how did the concept of Sonic entering the Arabian Nights come about? Well, the development name for the Wii was Revolution, so the development team wanted to revolutionize Sonic by doing something not seen in previous games, hence the Arabian Nights setting. With that background out the way, let's go through this game's story. The game starts with Sonic sleeping on a couch. Once he wakes up, he grabs this ring that just happens to be there and is introduced to Shara, who is the genie of the ring. She explains that the pages of the Arabian Nights are being erased by a guy called Eraser Jin, who is basically the genie of the lamp from Aladdin, but he hates people now, and he also sounds bored most of the time. Sonic decides to enter the story with the help of Shara to stop Eraser. Not long into his journey, Sonic comes face to face with the evil genie where he says he's looking for the 7 world rings to conquer the Arabian Nights quicker and then be able to escape into the real world. He then fires an arrow of fire at Shara, but Sonic takes it instead. Eraser explains that when the flame runs out, Sonic's life will be forfeit and that he'll only remove it if Sonic gathers the world rings for him. So Sonic does just that, travelling to the many worlds of the Arabian Nights searching for the world rings, encountering many characters from the story who for some reason look like people Sonic know. Something to do with Sonic's perception of the story or something? I don't know. I also don't really care. Not to sound like I'm skipping a lot here, but after a bit of adventuring, Sonic gathers all the world rings and smacks Genie Man in his face. After doing that though, we meet him again where he demands Sonic hand over the rings. He refuses, but Shara decides to give them to Eraser anyway. And as a reward for collecting the world rings, Eraser decides to remove the flame from Sonic and, just kidding, he offers Sonic up as a sacrifice. We learn across the story that the collector of the rings must be sacrificed in order to create a link between the Arabian Nights and the real world. This leads to Eraser offering Sonic as a sacrifice, only for Shara to jump in the way and take the blow instead, killing her. With Shara's death, Eraser absorbs all 7 world rings to turn into Alf Wayla Walayla, a hideous monster intent on recreating the Arabian Nights in his own image before going on to conquer Sonic's world. Due to Sonic's emotional state after Shara's death, he absorbs the world rings of sadness, rage, and hatred to turn into Dark-Spine Sonic, who is basically Super Sonic but really angry. Dark-Spine Sonic beats the ever-loving hell out of the boss, which reverts Eraser to his original form. The evil genie still vows to wreak havoc, but Sonic puts a stop to him using Eraser's lamp, which was given to him earlier by Shara. This makes Sonic Eraser's master and gives him the ability to have 3 wishes. Wish 1 is to bring Shara back to life, which I'm pretty sure is against the rules and he doesn't like doing it, but whatever. Wish 2 is to return the Arabian Nights to its original state, and Wish 3 is to trap Eraser in his lamp for all eternity. With Eraser dealt with, the game ends with Sonic wishing for a mounting of handkerchiefs from Shara in a callback to the start of the game. This story is fine. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with it, it's just kinda there. On a character level, the only ones that really matter are Eraser, Shara, and Sonic himself. Eraser's pretty one-dimensional, which isn't inherently bad, but he is a bit boring. His role in the story is also weird. He tasks Sonic with collecting the world rings for him, but he constantly gets in his way, making it harder for Sonic to collect the things he wants him to collect. The worst of this is when he sets this Ifrit thing on Sonic, which has a world ring inside of it. Also, I don't really think the threat of Eraser is shown enough throughout the game. We're certainly told he's causing havoc across the Arabian Nights, but we don't really see it, with the exception of King Solomon over there. Shara is basically Sonic's sidekick in this game, and she's certainly there. She gives some context to Sonic for the Arabian Nights, and her friendship with him is established throughout the game. However, it's quite clear that she has some ulterior motive. An issue I have with Shara is that she was able to leave the Arabian Nights just fine, whilst Eraser needs the world rings in order to leave. It's quite clearly stated that Eraser is much more powerful than Shara, so why doesn't he just leave? If Shara can leave, why can't he? Now, it's all good talking about one-off characters, but let's be honest, we're only here for Sonic, and how is he in this game? In my opinion, He's pretty good. He acts just the way I expect Sonic to. He's caring and selfless and loves to wisecrack when necessary. And I love how he's obviously struggling with the flame diminishing across the game, but he tries his best to stay strong not to worry Shara. A problem I have though is that he seems to have caught a bad case of Metal Gear syndrome, and if you don't know what that means, he keeps asking questions.
The power of the book? How am I supposed to do anything about that? Contract? Eraser? Gin? 7 world rings? Castle? Spirits?
Metal Gear.
Okay, what else can I talk about? Oh, the voice acting. It's not amazing, but it certainly does the job. However, I don't really know what to think of Jason Griffith's Sonic voice in this game. It's definitely better than his first attempts, but I don't know, something just seems off to me. There are some bright spots though. I really like the delivery of this line.
This is awful. You're just some incomplete monster.
I don't dislike his voice in this game, it's just not my preferred sound for Sonic. Something I do like though is the presentation of these cutscenes. I think it helps set this game apart from others in a good way. Overall, the story is decent, but my main complaint is how it's told. Cutscenes are tied to certain levels, but which levels you have to play to advance the story is not clearly labelled. This means you can see the story out of order, which happened to me. I was at a point in the story where they call back to a promise that Sonic and Shara made, but there was one problem. I hadn't seen the original cutscene where they made the promise, so I had no idea what they were talking about. There's no risk of missing cutscenes altogether, you have to see all of them to finish the game, but it's still annoying. I think I've talked about the story long enough at this point. This is a game after all, so what does it play like? Firstly, I'd just like to say that IGN, Nintendo Power and GameSpot all said that this game was the best 3D Sonic game at the time. It's safe to say I don't agree with that statement. Secret Rings is made up of 8 separate worlds, with the first one being a tutorial world and the rest consisting of many locales in the Arabian Nights. We have a desert, a jungle with some dinosaurs, a factory, some sky ruins, a pirate ship, the Bone Zone, and a palace. A nice varied selection with some good aesthetics. The game definitely uses the Arabian Nights setting well in terms of the world you travel to. And when you travel to these worlds, you play through various challenges until you collect a world ring for that specific world. Once you collect all 7, you can take on the final boss. That sounds simple, but as I stated earlier, it's not very clear what levels grant you the world rings. You just have to play levels until you beat the right ones. It's annoying, but it shouldn't be a problem if I find the game fun to play. I don't find this game fun to play, and the main reason is the control. Surprise, surprise, this is an early Wii game, so of course we have motion controls. You hold the Wiimote horizontally and tilt it left and right to move Sonic left and right. How do you move forward? You don't. The game does it automatically. Yes, you are on rails for the entirety of this game, and you are constantly going forward. You are able to brake using the 1 button, and you can very carefully tiptoe Sonic backwards by tilting the Wiimote towards yourself. He doesn't turn around though, which means you have no idea what is directly behind you. Also, if it looks really weird when moving backwards, it's because the playthrough I recorded was done using a normal controller, and moving backwards is really janky when you map the controls on an emulator. This isn't how it looks with an actual Wiimote. Still annoying though. Another thing I don't really like is how you jump in this game. Instead of doing what pretty much every game in the history of ever does, which is make your character jump as soon as you press the jump button, Sonic only jumps when you let go of the jump button, which in this case is the 2 button. Holding down the button causes Sonic to charge up his jump, with a longer charge allowing a higher jump. I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but this is dumb. Every single time you want to jump, you have to stop in your tracks to charge the thing up. This causes the gameplay to be incredibly stop-start. You can keep things on the move with a short hop by tapping the jump button, but that's more for a quick burst of speed rather than any sort of jump height. And since we're motion controlled out of our mind here, instead of just pressing a button to perform a homing attack, you have to move the Wiimote forward quickly to homing attack. It mostly works. I don't know why they couldn't have just used a button, but whatever. With these controls, you run through the 8 worlds, with each world, other than the first one, consisting of one main level and other challenges which take place in segments of that main stage. Did I say you run through these levels? It's more like a leisurely jog at the start of the game because Sonic isn't really that quick in the beginning. You have to level up Sonic in order to make him faster, along with unlocking other skills which can be useful for defeating enemies and such. Having a platforming Sonic game start off with Sonic not being fast is... how do I put this? Stupid. I'm not against some sort of leveling system where you can unlock new skills and make Sonic faster. Sonic Unleashed did it perfectly fine. The main difference though is that Sonic is already fast at the start of Unleashed. That is not the case here. Having to unlock speed in a Sonic game is like having to unlock the ability to jump in a Mario game. It doesn't make any sense. With that being said though, some of the skills you can unlock are pretty good. I'm a fan of these speed boosts you can get when you land from jumping, as it makes the game a lot faster paced. Later in the game you can unlock 2 special skills that were introduced in this game: Speed Break and Time Break. Speed Break allows Sonic to boost forward, which is good for skipping some sections that you really don't care about. And Time Break slows down time, which can help with some obstacles that move at a faster pace. You can use these skills by filling up your soul gauge, by grabbing these orbs, or defeating enemies. These skills are pretty cool, it's just a shame that I think this game sucks. The on-rails gameplay holds Secret Rings back massively, and the motion controls aren't very good. The most important thing to me in a Sonic game was the control. Am I able to be in control of where Sonic is going at all times with relative ease? In games like the Adventure series, I can say yes. I sure as hell can't say that for Secret Rings. Trying to be precise with this control? Don't bother, it's not worth it. Even if you master the game to the point where you're in perfect control, I honestly don't think the level design is fulfilling at all. It doesn't help that some of these levels go on for ages. I'm talking close to 10 minutes at times, and that's too long for a Sonic stage. It's even worse when most stages have parts where you're just doing nothing. You're just sat there holding a Wiimote staring at Sonic running. Good gameplay here, guys. I'm just watching the gameplay itself. Also, whoever's idea it was to structure the opening tutorial world like this, I don't like them. Instead of having a singular level where you learn all the controls, you have multiple levels dedicated to only one movement. Jumping, homing, attacking, and even simply moving left and right are their own levels. This is just a massive waste of time. Okay, I'm gonna focus on something a bit more positive for a moment. The music. It's pretty good. It's also pretty distinctive since the majority of the world themes have lyrics. I like it. It gives this game even more of a unique identity than it already has. My only real complaint is that I think it can get a bit repetitive sometimes. Dinosaur Jungle's Wicked Wild is probably the worst for this. Overall though, it is really good stuff, and that includes the main theme, Seven Rings in Hand. I like this theme, but I also can't stand it. You open the game and hear... You beat a level and...
Just made it!
And after that, you go right back to the main menu. Before you even get out of the tutorial world, you will hear Seven Rings in Hand in some form or fashion 16 times. There is only so much Make Believe Reborn I can take. I still like the song, it just plays too much. Okay, back to something I don't like, and that's the structure of this game. Like I said earlier, levels that grant story progression are not clearly labelled, so there are times where you're blindly playing levels, and whilst yes, playing more levels allows you to unlock more skills, it's not very fun to finish a level and learn you made no story progression. Because of this, you'll find yourself jumping around worlds a lot in order to finish the game. Speaking of finishing the game, another issue I have is even though the world rings are tied to the story, you can unlock all the worlds and fight Eraser Jin in the Night Palace without collecting all of them. This even rolls the credits despite it being obvious that it's not the end of the game. Also, you normally get world rings when you beat bosses, but sometimes you just find them in the middle of nowhere. It's really jarring. When you collect all the world rings though, you get to fight the final boss, which is... Could you not have used a different song? This boss isn't great. The goal is to build up your soul gauge enough to perform speed break to counter this specific attack. After that, you go up to the boss and punch and kick the crap out of it. Repeat that 2 more times and the boss ends. It's a pretty simple fight, but the way you build up the soul gauge is tiring. I mean that literally, since you have to constantly shake the Wiimote to build the thing up. He doesn't have that many attacks and they aren't that hard to avoid, but the constant shaking of the Wiimote makes this fight not very enjoyable. And that's probably how I can best describe this game for me. It's not very enjoyable. There are things I like. The presentation, the music, the story to some extent, but I can't have any sort of fun with this gameplay. The controls are inherently flawed. I mean, look at rail swapping, it just doesn't work. And even if this game had no motion controls and was controlled conventionally, I really don't think it'd be much better. I think this game is boring from a level design standpoint. Yet again, there are prolonged sections where you just do nothing, and even then it doesn't work sometimes. This is a stop-start mess with unsatisfying controls, and that is really the opposite I'm looking for in a Sonic platformer. And because of that, this is probably my least favourite Sonic game. Granted, I've not played all of them, but I never want to go back and play this game again, which is saying something, because it's not that long of a game. It took me under 6 hours to beat it, but it definitely felt a lot longer than that. I also played it twice for this video, one with emulated controls and one with an actual Wiimote, so that probably didn't help either. Also, I'd like to say that this is my opinion. I'm not saying you're stupid or wrong if you like Secret Rings. I just personally don't like it. Despite my personal opinions on the game, it got decent reviews at the time of release, which led to a sequel being made, but I think I'll leave that story to a hopefully much more positive video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you want to hear me be a bit more positive about Sonic, here's a video where I talk about Update 3 for Sonic Frontiers. Hope you all have a great day, and see ya.